All right, everyone. I hope you've been able to implement some of the ggplot fundamentals and to create one or the other plot yourself. We now have a break in our program of 20 minutes. So the official program will continue at 3 p.m. Feel free to stay in the Zoom meeting, but you can also log out and log in again. There would also be no problem. I and some of the others of us will stay on, and I will, in that time, upon request, demonstrate some of the elements in a live coding session, and in particular, some of the other plot types, some of which are part of the Go Explore section of the practical that you've just worked on. So if you're interested in that, you're very welcome to stay on, and you're also very welcome to ask your questions in that time. So if there are any questions relating to the materials that you worked on or even beyond, feel free to let us know. All right, for everyone else, now 19-minute break. We'll continue at 3 p.m. sharp. Okay. So the request was to create a Violin plot, which is sort of one kind of plot that can be useful to illustrate the distribution of a variable. So far you've largely worked with the aggregates, but obviously we can also look at the distribution of wealth in a given year, rather than plotting the average of the means or the average of the medians. So let's look at this. Okay, so yeah, let's do it. 30. Okay, we read in the data, and now, right? We can do this. Let's do this. Oh, come on. Right. So you've worked with you work with averages, but of course, for every single year, there's actually 21 values available, one for every quarter. So as a geom point, as a geom point, that would look like this, right? Which is not quite ideal, right? Because, I mean, you see here, for instance, a lot of these points are overlapping, right? So this isn't really a good plot of showing what the distribution of income looks like in any given year. And another way, sort of a more classic way of doing this would be using Geom Box Plot, which is sort of a classic way of illustrating the distribution of values by giving us, oops, what is it doing? Geom Box Plot wants groups. Oh, that's a bit annoying. That should work. Yeah. So it will be a Geom Box Plot, which gives us sort of the quartiles of the distribution and may also illustrate outliers, right? So this is already a bit better. And the Violin plot is sort of a bit of the modern version of the box plot, which gives us not only essentially the location of these quartiles, the first quartile, the median, and the third quartile, but gives us sort of a continuous representation of where the mass of the distribution lies. So, and we can do this. The code should work the same way, right? And then it looks like this. In this case, it's not super helpful because we're only dealing with 21 points, right? And obviously the distribution isn't very different, but there can be cases where such a representations can reveal the location of different modes in the distribution, for instance. And in fact, here it does to some extent, right? We see, for instance, here in 2001, that there is a mode, there's a sort of accumulated mass at the very bottom of the distribution down here. And then there looks like there's a bit of an accumulation also up here in that region. So this tells us here, for instance, okay, it could be there are actually two modes in the distribution, one large mode down here and one sort of smaller mode up there, right? And I think there's also a bunch you can control here. For instance, you can say, hey, I would like to have the same information as in the box plot by giving it quantile locations that we want to draw. And now we get these lines here. And now we also see, okay, that's the first quartile, that's the second quartile, which is the median, the third quartile, etc. And of course, I think you can also control this. So this is technically is an estimated density, which is based on the bandwidth. Sort of it's the aggregation level. And that's also something I think you can control. I'm not sure I ever did that within a Geom Violin, but then it would become, let's see. Is that? No. Yeah, it's probably in here and some of the extra arguments that can be supplied. But yeah, that's that will be a Geom Violin. Is there anything else you would like to see? So feel free to raise your hand and one of us will swiftly unmute you. Oh, we got someone. Oh, can you guys take care of? Ah, hey.
Hey. Yeah, this is really interesting. Can you also make a box plot into the Violin plot?
Yeah, yeah. And it's super easy. Just add it. Which in this case is not great. Maybe you would want to do it the other way around. Or we could start to control some of the other dimensions. Right? So we could say, hey, maybe this isn't the best representation. I want to see both. I don't want the violin to be sort of completely covered by the box plot. Maybe I make the box plot a bit transparent, right? And then it's that. It's not ideal, right? Probably would want to take this away. And yeah, and then maybe make it a bit wider. Yeah, maybe that's a bit helpful, right? But yeah, that's a popular representation. I see that a lot. In fact, a lot of it is actually using the pirate plot. I think that's the YAR package, and it's called pirate plot. It's one of my colleagues has written that, and I see it a lot around now. Basically, a violin plot plus a box plot. It can be helpful, but this isn't yet, I think, the best possible way of doing this. What do you think?
It's not how I imagine it.
Is there anything you would, do you have any idea of making this better?
Not from the top of my head.
Maybe removing these whiskers could be useful. I think there's probably a way of doing that. Probably somewhere. No, maybe not. Yeah, but yeah, I think if I was doing this, I would probably try to remove these whiskers. I think they are a bit irritating, at least with both at the same time. And then, I don't know, I don't know. So it's probably also not the right data for it, right? I mean, it's super packed. So there's a lot of sort of quarters, or sorry, the years in this case, right? Mm-hmm. So I think we want to spread this out quite a bit. I mean, this could work. Well.
Okay, something else then, because I think
anything else?
I like the Violin plots, but the thing is that you can't see the mean, right?
Yeah, but you also don't get the mean in the box plot. The box plot also displays the median.
Yeah.
But yeah, you would. That's something, of course, you can add, right? I mean, as you've added one, we already have. We have two geoms here. We can start to add additional geoms to try to make that work. So, So additional geoms, but one thing that would be missing at this point is that we don't know what the mean would be, right? So currently we're working with the original data Basel, which only has the individual values for the quarters at every year. We don't have the average in that data set presently, right? So if we wanted to display the mean as well, one way of doing this would be to calculate the mean, to basically do what you've did in the practical, aggregate it, get the means, and then plug that into an additional geom, for instance, a geom H line or a geom segment, and then use that to additionally show the means. On top of that is something that's actually not, I think, in my materials for this course. Some of these functions allow you to specify statistics. And I think, the default connection between box plot and stat box plot. Yeah, I don't know for those. I think you can. You should be able to, or at least for many of them. I don't know specifically for Violin and box plot, but for many of them, you can specify a summary function to control what the different elements of the plot display. Yeah, but I would probably go the route via the data, because it's also more explicit, and being explicit is often a good thing. So I would probably aggregate the data, join it back to the original data frame, and then refer to it explicitly in an additional geom.
Thanks.
Yeah, we got a new suggestion. That's another way of doing this. It's something that actually works well together with Geom Violin, and that is a jitter. And it's something that, I mean, I'm not talking so much about sort of the principles of visualization in this course. I think in the next one I'll allude to some, but one principle I find very important, at least in scientific visualizations, is to show the raw data as much as possible. And one way of doing this in this case would be to use a violin and a geom jitter, which will then show the violin, but also, right, the violin giving them a summary of the distribution, but then with geom jitter also the location of the points. And then you would probably make the points a bit more transparent, maybe something like this. You may also want to reduce maybe the jitter a bit. Oh, wait, where is that? Ah, it's here. So, well, it's not always easy to know what the scale is. I think that should work. Yeah, you make it a bit thinner, right? I mean, this could be a bit nicer because you really see where the points are. And one thing that the geom jitter also shows you, which is quite important, is that it is very few points, right? So you really gain something by adding these points, because then really people don't mistake this as sort of really being a solid estimate of a distribution. All right, we've got 7 more minutes. Other suggestions and ideas?